morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We're going to just take about a couple more minutes and let a few more people get logged in this morning. Okay, well, welcome to the Survival Skills for the Job Hunt series. And my name's Misty Ritter. I am with University of Missouri Extension and I'm a community engagement specialist in economic development located in Jefferson County. This webinar series represents an outgrowth of past collaborations between MU Extension, Missouri Job Centers, and the Missouri AFL-CIO. And today it is an honor to welcome Sally Payne, Director of Workforce Development for the Missouri Job Center, and Jim Colby, Operations Coordinator for the Missouri AFL-CIO Dislocated Worker Program. So over the course of the next several weeks, we will offer a series of webinars that will help you and others prepare for a transition to a new job or career. And we will connect you with resources and experts that can help you navigate the complex and changing reality and help you retool and find your next job. So I also want to inform you that this presentation will be recorded, but it will be stopped for the question and answer section. So please post your questions in the chat feature or save your questions till the end of the presentation. So good morning, Sally. Thanks for being with us today.
Good morning. Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
You sound great.
Okay, great. Thank you for that introduction. Thank you for having me today. I do want to thank my executive assistant, Haley, who is over to the right, 6 feet away, of course, as we're physical distancing, but I couldn't do it without her. She's driving the boat today, changing the slides, and really put the presentation together for me. So I wanted to thank her. Thank you for having me. These are certainly unprecedented times that we're all working in. And thank you for allowing me to give just a general overview of the Job Center. So just a basic overview of the workforce system. There are approximately 500 plus workforce development boards throughout the United States, and each of these boards receive federal funding from the Department of Labor. My specific region in the state of Missouri is the Ozark region, and we cover 7 counties throughout the state: Dallas, Polk, Webster, Greene, Christian, Stone, and Taney. We, like I said previously, our funding is allocated to the board from the U.S. Department of Labor, and then that's allocated to each of the states, and then they have an additional formula where they allocate it to the different board regions. This is just a map of Missouri. We are down in the bottom of the Ozark region in Southwest Missouri, but this is just an overview of all the board regions in the state. It's interesting to note that there are 14 different regions in the state of Missouri, and we're all set up a little bit differently, and you'll find that very common throughout the nation. We are actually governed by a city government, but we have boards that are set up through a community college. We have them set up through a county government, and then we have many boards that are incorporated. So we all operated and are set up a little bit different, but like I said, it doesn't change our funding source and our overall mission and vision. And this is just a close-up of our region. Greene County, of course, being the most populous in our area, but through this time from March through now, frankly, Taney County, that's Branson, Missouri, entertainment mecca that it is in Southwest Missouri, has really experienced an unprecedented high unemployment rate and has consistently been the highest unemployed in the state of Missouri. This is just an overview of how our funding is allocated. U.S. Congress allocates the funds to the Department of Labor, Employment and Training. They allocate it to the state of Missouri. They apply additional formulas and then allocate those to each of the boards. And our board is, the fiscal administrator for the board is the City of Springfield Department of Finance. And then we're all governed by CLEO, which is the Council of Local Elected Officials, and that's per our WIOA law. And then we have a board made up of private and public partnerships. And that's just a close-up of how the funds are allocated. It just gives you a general overview. But of course, all the boards are differently, and we all have different funding sources in addition to our federal funding. There's a close-up of our board that's showing all of our county commissioners in our 7-county. Bob Dixon, the presiding commissioner of Greene County, is our chair. And we have private business, we've got labor representatives on our board, adult ed, voc rehab, higher education as well. So it's a good variety and very diverse. For our specific regions, and as I mentioned before, each region is different. Even though we all receive Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act funding, there might be some additional funding that each entity or organization will apply for and gets as well. So in our specific regions, the Ozark region, we've got numerous funding sources. So you can see we've got WIOA Youth, Adult and Dislocated. Those are our funds that are allocated from the Department of Labor. We also, in addition to that, have a couple of direct federal grants that the City of Springfield Department of Workforce Development operates. America's Promise Grant is a direct federal grant from the Department of Labor. And we also have an EPA job training grant where we train people in environmental cleanup, and that's a direct federal grant from the EPA. We also, in our region, operate the TANF Missouri Work Assistance Program, and we actually have a chaplain office and a Mount Vernon office. We have apprenticeship and digital apprenticeships, and we also have partner cost shares. Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, those are our formula funds with the Department of Labor. We have an adult fund and we have income eligibility, dislocated worker, individuals that have been laid off and cannot anticipate returning to their previous place of employment. And our youth program, which we rebranded as our Aspire program a few years ago, we found that individuals who were eligible for our youth program, you can see it goes from age 14 to 24. Well, a 24-year-old didn't want to be in a youth program, so we actually rebranded that to be called Aspire. But again, income, lack of income, and barriers as well. This is an overview of our apprenticeships. We have a Franklin apprenticeship that was apprenticeships in IT and computer. That apprenticeship actually expired. It expires tomorrow on 9/30. We have a Show Me Heroes Fund, and that works with those returning service members and their family to get them employed. And the Digital and Automotive Apprenticeship USA as well. And we work in partnership with the State of Missouri Department of Higher Education and Workforce Development to administer those apprenticeships. It's interesting, and I'll talk a little bit more about co-enrollment, but our WIOA participants can be co-enrolled in America's Promise, our healthcare grant, or even our EPA Brownsfield grant. And we find it a great advantage to co-enroll people and leverage and braid our funding together. There might be something that our EPA grant can't provide, such as supportive services, that if they're eligible for WIOA Adult, we can provide supportive services. And it just allows more flexibility in working with our clients. All boards, and this is per the WIOA law that you see nationwide, it's not exclusive to us, have required partners. And these are some of our required partners, or all of them. In Ozark Region, we only have 17 out of the 19 required partners. So, and all of those partners, all 17, share in the infrastructure cost of the job center. And some of them are even co-enrolled. So we have in our one-stop, our large one-stop center in Springfield, we have Voc Rehab here. We offer adult ed, so Title II services. Of course, we have adult, youth, and dislocated. We've got OCAT coming in once a month, and we really try to bring in as many partners and have them co-located. It's just easier for our clients that we're serving. And, you know, we really try to, at our job center, we really try to live by the philosophy that, you know, when a customer comes through the front door, they shouldn't have to worry about where their service is coming from, what fund or what program or what partner is working with them. The only thing they should worry about is getting that service. So we try very hard just to not let them worry about that. So I'll go through just a few of our programs and workshops and specific initiatives. So I mentioned previously our Aspire program, and we did rebrand that, as I mentioned earlier. You know, when we rebranded it, you know, we just found that like it was easier to recruit into the program, and it kind of lost that governmental federal feel to it, and just made it a little bit cooler. And as I said before, you know, a youth that's older than 18, that 18 to 24, they didn't want to be tied to an actual youth because they don't feel like they're an actual youth anymore. So the rebranding was really, really helpful. But with our youth engagement, we can offer internships, paid work experience, where on our paid work experience, we can reimburse an employer up to 100% of the wages, up to 320 hours. We can do on-the-job training programs, not just with youth, but with adult and dislocated, where we can reimburse the employer 50% of the wages. We also have a pre-apprenticeship program, which we found really, really effective, especially with our Aspire program. And the pre-apprenticeship was kind of a try before you buy type program. They would work with the different unions and kind of help them figure out and direct them where they wanted to go. We've also held a series of youth roundtables where, I mean, unfortunately, we won't be having one this fall, but it was a really effective way of engaging area youth. So we would bring in about 40 area high school students, mostly juniors and seniors from the surrounding 7 counties, and we would just talk to them about their expectations. Did they want to leave the area for school? Is college their path? You know, do you realize that there's tuition reimbursement if college debt is weighing heavily on your mind? And we would moderate that. And then at the end, for about 5 minutes, we would let employers ask them questions about their expectations. And having those roundtables, and we also do industry-specific roundtables as well, really has helped guide our programming and our initiatives that we do in our specific region. Because, you know, we may think we know, but you really don't know until you know, and you actually talk to people and get feedback from them. And we also do career exploration. We worked heavily with our local GoCaps program through the chamber. We unfortunately had to cancel it, but Build My Future is a construction career day. That initiative, we started with $3,000 from the Department of Transportation, and that expo, our first year we had an enrollment of about 700 kids from the area. And this past year, before we had to unfortunately cancel it due to COVID, we had 3,000 kids signed up for the first time, and we were even drawing kids from Arkansas. That initiative has spread to several states, such as Texas and Florida and Pennsylvania and Iowa, who are all doing similar events. But it's really a hands-on, and we've just found from not just our youth roundtables, but Kids are craving that more hands-on type learning, and we really wanted to introduce our area youth to all fields and possible careers in construction, and really trying to educate them hands-on, of course, by letting them know, they can have a future, a really good, solid career in all things construction. Construction's also one of the most aging populations. I think the average construction worker, from what I hear, is about 43 years, and they are really concerned that there's not enough youth to fill those positions going forward. And we've also, for the first time last fall of 2019, we did a similar event with healthcare. And we'll start pushing out that event going into next year. But it was the same premise. At our job center, we have, of course, hiring events and job fairs. We have a business service team, and their job specifically is to work with area employers. And we have hiring events, job fairs. We can do industry specific, or we can do multi-industry. And we also, prior to COVID, I should have just gave that disclaimer from the beginning. Prior to COVID, we had a Wednesday Works where they would just be little mini events. I will say, due to COVID, we were the first job center in the state of Missouri to reopen. We opened at the end of May. We had it a little bit easier than most. We have over 40,000 square feet in our one location. So it's very easy to physical distance. And you can see from that picture, that would be impossible if we were having a hiring event inside. However, we were also one of the first job centers to have a drive-through event. And when I say drive-through event, I know a lot of people have let people drive through and they'll hand them a packet and paper. We actually had employers set up tents and allowed for that personal one-on-one engagement. And then if they wanted to actually, do an interview on site, then the customer could pull their car over and they would have a separate table. Masking was required, 6 feet physical distancing was required. But at this time of uneasiness, we've got employers that still need people, and we've got job seekers that still need a job. And we were just trying to bring the two together in a really inconvenient way. And I'm really happy to report, and I just try to think about it in my mind, there were people who pulled in our parking lot unemployed and literally pulled out of our parking lot employed with a job, or at least job offers, and honestly, in some cases, multiple job offers. So those have been really successful. These are some of our workshops that are offered in our Springfield office. We also have an office in Branson, and we have a mini satellite office in the north side of town as well. Apply, and we work with those reentering society after being incarcerated. We've worked specifically with the Ozarks Correctional Center in Fordland, Missouri, and we work with those. We go behind the wall and work with those with legal issues. That program has had a success rate and employment rate of about 85%, highly successful. We're trying to work with Department of Corrections in Missouri right now to have that class virtual. Career exploration, navigating the government job applications, which can be, an issue in and of its own. The interview process as well, working with people on interview techniques and mock interviews, online resumes and applications. A lot of people we find want to make their resume really pretty, want to use special fonts and lines, and I know that looks good. But, they often wonder why their resume gets rejected with an online application. But many online application systems just simply don't recognize all the really nice, pretty things that people put on their resume. So that's a very highly effective class. Of course, we have veterans services. We have the veterans team here. Financial wellness, we partner with Regions Bank actually, and they offer financial wellness, not just behind the walls in Portland, but to all of our job seekers. They've been a really great partner, and they have those courses at no charge. We do adult education, computer, internet, basic Microsoft systems, keyboarding. We do WorkKeys assessment. We also have the additional services. I just want to point out the Career Closet. That is an actual clothing closet that we started several years ago. We would previously give our job seekers and our customers a voucher, maybe to a thrift store, which is really great. But with transportation being such a barrier for some of our job seekers, we decided to put a Career Closet in just a spare room that we had. It's expanded. We've made it look like a boutique, and it really gives those who need work appropriate clothing, interview clothing, the opportunity to get, 1, 2, 3 outfits at no charge. So we're very proud of that Career Closet. Employability is another initiative that we do. Unfortunately, we are postponing that this year, but it's working and having an event to work with employers on hiring those with disabilities or differing abilities. It's been highly effective. We have an employability committee. We brought in people to talk about the ADA, just trying to create a more inclusive workforce environment. We also do an annual momentum survey in our region, and we survey about 500 area employers, businesses, organizations about what they see in the job market, what are their needs, how do they assess the educational system in the area. And these are just some of the highlights that we've seen consistently over the past few years. Lack of relevant work experience, insufficient number of applicants, and lack of relevant technical occupational skills are kind of on the upper end in most response. It'll be interesting to release that survey, which we're going to do this month. We've put a little COVID-19 section in the survey because we really know that COVID has changed all of our lives, all of our businesses. There's no one that's been untouched. And we really want to capture that data and information. And some of the current overview, just kind of the changing characteristics of the talent pool. Again, the disclaimer, pre-COVID, a lot of job seekers were getting a side hustle or a second job. It's really turned into a gig economy where you've got more 1099 workers, people just going from gig to gig. A lot of startups, there tended to be a trend toward a more entrepreneurial spirit. Length of employment, we're finding that certain generations aren't staying on the job as long as they used to. It was trending prior to COVID at about 5 years, and then they would make a switch where, before previous generations would stay on the job, 23 years, you started with an organization and you retired with an organization. And that just doesn't seem to be the case anymore. When we look at what's going to happen due to COVID, I think you're going to see a lot more remote work, employers, providing more flexibility. And so I think there's going to be some significant changes there. And then these are also some key trends from our survey. And again, doing this survey every year just kind of lets the whole community and our whole region see what's going on. There's a lot of organizations, the chamber and our educational providers that utilize this survey. And now that we've released the survey this will be our 7th year, we've really started to develop some trends in the data. And it's, soft skills or it's essential skills, whichever one that you, define them as. 85% of the local employers say that they need communication training, organization, working on a team. Those soft essential skills just continue to be lacking. And I'm interested to see how that goes this year. Lifelong learning is becoming a necessity. It's just not going to happen that you go into a job now and, that's it. With advancements and technology happening at such a rapid rate, everybody needs to be a lifelong learner. And automation and technology, of course, are reshaping the workforce as well. And we just encourage people to be those lifelong learners and, embrace those technological advances too. And then this is a new slide post-COVID, or I guess we're right in the middle of COVID. Virtual is the new norm, of course. Targeted and intentional approach. When our job centers shut down mid-March, we immediately took what we could, our classes, resume, interviewing online. I will say probably most of April was spent addressing our community's unemployment questions. And even though we aren't the unemployment office, listen, we're here to be whatever the community needs of us, and the economy and the community needed us to be more unemployment related. And so we were happy to do that. And we tried to push out as much unemployment information as we could. However, now that we're open back up and we're trying to, as people were getting back to work, we've still offering all of our services virtually. It's just we're realizing, using this really as an opportunity to learn and grow. It's allowing us to reach job seekers that have never had access or stepped foot into a job center before. And I think that's, of course, going to be a trend statewide for sure. And I'm more than sure nationwide. And we've even taken our hiring events. The state of Missouri purchased some virtual hiring event software and allowing us to have virtual hiring events. There's actually one going on today. The last virtual hiring event drew in about 2,000 participants from across meetings. Of course, here we are. Virtual enrollments. We're doing virtual enrollments. Case management is being done virtually. Facebook Live. We increased our social media presence over the past few months by thousands of followers because we literally put everything, any information we have out on social media. And we also have Zoom meetings, of course, with our business service reps, training providers, and employers. Like I said, I just want to be, this is trending, or this presentation was for the Ozark region. But please remember, every job center is different statewide. Our basic mission and vision, though, are all the same. We're here to get people to work, and we're here to get people trained. So with that, that is the end of my presentation.
Well, thank you, Sally. And remember, if you have questions, you're welcome to place them in the chat window. And now we will welcome Jim Colby from Missouri AFL-CIO.
Well, good morning. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yes, we hear you loud and clear, Jim.
Great. Okay. First thing I'll say is that's an excellent presentation by Sally. And, representing our Missouri job centers is a tough job because they are very complex with all the backdoor information of what you need. And most of our people that come into the job centers really don't want to hear about all that. They just want to know, what can you do for them? And our Missouri job centers have really been the hospitals of a sick economy. And just to have them open, whether it be by phone or whether it be able to come in and see them or whether to do a drive-through event is excellent work trying to convert to a new system here when you're doing everything online as opposed to be able to have people come in the door. So I want to thank her for that. But again, my name's Jim Colby. I work with the Missouri AFL-CIO Dislocated Worker Program. We partner with the state of Missouri, the employee transition team, and we typically would go out and visit with workers. In this environment, we've had to do a lot of Zoom meetings and some Facebook information to get our information out. This year has been a very, very trying year. This year has been just really difficult to operate, and it makes it hard to get out the information we need to. So I appreciate the opportunity to have the time to talk with everyone. You know, our job is really to try to help people deal with the stress and the change people go through when they lose a job. And dealing with change, you know, trying to deal with people and help them understand that change is something that we all go through when we go through 4 simple steps: denial, resistance, exploration, commitment. That denial would mean that, hey, they're not going to lay me off. Resistance might be, well, the company might lay off, but they'll still need me. Getting them to exploration and commitment is really getting them to take action to get in and see a job center and get the help they need and to move forward. Now, in March and April, when we first started having this COVID business, you know, we got an avalanche of warn notices. And now our warn notices come out typically would show that workers are getting laid off. But this year, over 98% of them said that we are furloughing workers. And with furloughing, it's different than being a layoff, because there's a commitment that they're coming back to work. And that commitment was made by government that we are going to provide extra unemployment benefits to help you be able to stay home until this COVID is done with and we can bring you back to work. And that gives you a couple caveats. And one is you've got the safety of getting extra unemployment benefits, and 2, that you have a job. So people don't quite go through the change process because the denial and resistance of, they're not losing a job. They have the expectation that they're coming back. But now that we've gone over 180 days into this event, and it may take another 180 days, you know, we're starting to see some of those furloughs turn into layoffs, which people weren't quite expecting. So the going through that change is making it a little more difficult for them to do. And probably one of the major things of trying to understand how many are going to go into layoffs as opposed to furloughs. You know, we saw a Fortune magazine article in July that stated a survey of businesses with furloughed workers, and they responded with 48% of the workers will all come back to their companies. Another 7% said that they were going to hire more people. It's like the Amazons of the world. But we had 23% of those businesses say that they were going to cut more than 10% of their workforce. And then another 22% of the businesses said that they would cut less than 10% of that workforce. So that's a serious problem going into the change process and helping people understand that your job is at risk. Even though you're furloughed, we don't have the guarantee that they're coming back. The second question they had in the survey with Fortune magazine asked, when will post-pandemic business travel resume? And 15% of them said Q1 2021 will bring back that travel. 26% said first quarter of 2022. And 6% said first quarter 2023. And then 52% of the businesses said they will never travel that much again. And in Missouri, we've got a lot of airline folks that are laid off or furloughed that may very well go into layoff. Now, I think they extended it through the federal government for an extra month here, but we don't know what's going to happen after that. But we know that there's going to be major layoffs in the airline industry. And we know that because we lost one airline company in St. Louis that had over 750 employees. And helping employees across 15 to 20 different states makes it a little harder with this COVID, getting out the communication, because when we got these warning notices for these furloughs, most of these employees were already off the payroll. My other concern is in Missouri, we lost 124,000 workers in the service sector industry. and we lost over 8,000 in the manufacturing sector. Now, I think we know where two of the big major layoffs or furloughs in the manufacturing were our auto plants. And we're glad to see them back to work and making cars and making business go. But our concern is we get 124,000 service folks that might need to understand that they may not be going back to the job they're doing, and they probably need to step in and see one of our job centers wherever they're at, and get the help that our Missouri Job Centers can do with rewriting resumes, looking at interviewing skills, and certainly looking at seeing if there's some retraining they might need to do to enter this new economy that seems to have everything that's going online. So we certainly hope to encourage folks to understand that, that our normal denial and resistance and exploration and commitment is a little different when people have the expectation that they're coming back to the job they have. And what I would ask for folks is, maybe we need to plan to prepare for the worst and hope for the best, and hope that you'll get that chance to go back to the job center or to the job that you had. But most of our workers can't sit out there an extra 180 days and not get some extra help with unemployment benefits and be prepared to go without getting some extra training, just in case some of those jobs do not survive. And the other thing that caveat did when you're furloughed, it really helped take a lot of the stress away from workers with that government assurance that you're going to get that extra unemployment benefits, and that the assurance that you were going to get that new job back. So we know that it's probably tough for workers to go 180 days and then find out that they're getting laid off, and there's maybe not that chance we're going to get any more of those employment benefits. So working with those folks to help deal with their stress is extremely important. And we try to teach a little bit about stress, just enough to help them understand that what's a normal stress and what would be distress. We all have stress, and we'll tell people a little story about what a normal stress is. We'll have talk about a little kid walking through the woods, and all of a sudden the bear starts chasing them, and they'll start running away from that bear to go climb up a big old tree. And that big old bear try to climb up that tree, and he just can't get to the top part of that tree, and the bear's got to climb down and walk away. And the kid gets out of that tree and stands on the ground and just relaxes. All the stress is gone. The typical fright, flight, relaxation period of a person going through a normal stress. But what we have today is just a little bit more than that. We have what we call an abnormal stress or distress. Is a lot of these folks don't think they're going back to their jobs, and they haven't prepared for their next job. Is really they've got that stress 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And we want to know that there's help out there for them for that stress. And we certainly want phone calls to talk to us. We'll be happy to talk to them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, help them try to get rid of that stress and try to help them start preparing to find their next new job by visiting one of our Missouri Job Centers, who really have been the hospitals of a sick economy. I, like everybody else, think things are getting a little better, but I have to remember the number of people who are still out there unemployed is way too high. And when people need a job and they need that revenue to take care of their family, we can only just encourage folks, go visit them job centers, get out there, get reskilled. Our job centers are open for business, whether you can make a phone call to them and see if you can come into that particular job center, or if you can work online for that job center. A lot of times you can go to your libraries and look up the Missouri Job Centers and get on there. Springfield has an excellent website to help you navigate all the different things that are available through our job centers to help people get reconnected, get reemployed, get retrained, and try to move on with their lives. And with that, I'll be happy to end. And I do want to thank you for giving me the time to speak to folks out there and try to help them just a little bit.
Well, thank you, Jim. Thank you.